Hi, my name's Peter Brogden, and in this short video we're going to show you how easy it is to clean the sensor on your full-frame Nikon SLR. Now, before we dig into the details of cleaning the sensor, I'd just like to deal with one small area that does sometimes confuse people, and that is distinguishing what is a dirty sensor from a dirty viewfinder. So let's be clear, dirt in the viewfinder is not going to affect the images. It's not dirt on the sensor. You can easily check whether you have a dirty viewfinder. Just take the lens cap off and just look through the camera at a continuous tone image, like a wall or a white piece of paper or something. Anything you see in the viewfinder is not on the sensor. It's usually on the focusing screen. I know it's annoying, but it's nothing specific to worry about. So, in order to check whether you do have a dirty sensor, it's a good idea to take a test image first, and it's important when you're cleaning the sensor to have a reference so that you can measure success after you've finished cleaning the sensor. Now, the best way to take a test image is obviously take the lens cap off, set the lens to manual focus because we're not interested in what we're photographing, we want to see what's on the sensor. Set the camera to aperture priority. And choose a small aperture. In this case, the maximum this lens will go to is 16, but if you can get to f22, obviously the smaller the aperture, the better the depth of field, the more clearly you'll see any contamination on the sensor. So I'm going to set a low ISO and then just point it at a white piece of paper or a white wall. Keep the camera moving so that nothing that here can be photographed, and then just take an exposure, and that will clearly show any dirt on the sensor. Now, you can either check it on the LCD on the back, or much better, put it in your computer and have a look at it there. Now, in order to clean the sensor, we've obviously got to get access to it. So before we start, it's worth saying prepare a clean area to work with. There's no sense in trying to clean the sensor on your camera in a dirty, grubby environment. Make sure you're working in somewhere that's as dust-free as you can make it. Now, to access the sensor, first of all, we need to make sure we have a fully charged battery, because we need to lift the mirror, open the shutter. We need battery power to do that. We don't want the battery power getting tired halfway through our cleaning procedure. Make sure, very important this, you've got a fully charged battery. So remove the lens. Now, having put the lens down on our work surface, please do put a lens cap on it in order to prevent any dust from the environment settling on the back of the lens. Similarly, when you're working on the camera, please don't leave the camera on your work table like that. When you're not actively working on it, leave it like that, or leave it like that, just to make sure that no dust can fall into the camera. So, accessing the sensor, we need to go to the menu system and select in Setup menu, Lock Up Mirror for Cleaning. Select that option, and then when we press the shutter button, the mirror goes up, the shutter opens, and the sensor is there ready to be cleaned. Cleaning the sensor itself is a two-stage process, by which I mean we're going to do a dry clean followed by a wet clean. Now, the dry clean is important because what that does is make sure that there is no gritty, sandy, sharp particles of contaminant on the sensor. Particularly important when we do the second stage, which is the wet clean. So, dry cleaning. So the first stage, let's go into mirror lockup mode. Right, the mirror is up, the shutter is open. Now we're going to use a blower. Usually I keep a blower in a polythene bag when I'm not using it, because that makes sure that the blower stays clean and the inside of the blower stays clean. This particular blower has an input filter, so I know it can only blow clean air. I like this blower as well because it has a nice soft tip. Hold the camera upside down, Move the blower to the entrance of the mirror box. Don't shove the tip of the blower inside the camera where it can cause damage. Just keep it just outside the mirror box and give a few quick puffs to remove any dust from the sensor. And then when you're finished, now you can either check the sensor with a loop, or of course you can do another test shot. Obviously it's a lot quicker to use a loop just to check if there's any dust remaining on the sensor. If there is, it might be worth going to the second stage of dry cleaning, which is to use a brush. Now these dust patrol brushes are nylon and extremely soft, and in order to use them you have to put a static charge on them, which you do with a blower. So by puffing air across the bristles, we're going to put a static charge on those bristles. So now, because there's a charge on them, they're going to be attracting dust. So all we need to do now is put the brush inside the camera and go along the sensor from one side to the other. And when you've done that, lift it out of the camera. And any remaining dust will have been trapped by the bristles. Put it back without touching the bristles, and then we can check with our loop again. And that should be enough to enable us to decide whether that's sufficient cleaning or whether we should now move on to the final stage, which would be a wet cleaning procedure. So the final stage of cleaning is to do a wet clean. And this is necessary to remove any pollen or diesel particulate or indeed any lubricants that have come off the mechanism onto the sensor that dry cleaning has not been able to remove. Now, in order to do a wet clean, we need to use a swab and some solution. Now, Dust Patrol have two solutions, gamma and beta fluids. Both have the same cleaning power, but the beta solution is the one to take if you're going to be travelling by air. The cleaning swabs come in 3 different sizes, and they're colour coded to make it easy to know which size you need. And if you're not sure, we have a chart on our website that will show you what you need for your particular camera. These swabs come in a little pouch that's sealed up. The swabs have got a very nice cutaway shape, which makes it really easy to see what you're doing while you're cleaning. And unlike many other swabs, they are completely mechanical. They're held on, the material is held on with a band. There's no gluing or welding, so there are no sharp edges on these swabs. They're extremely easy to use and very, very effective. Okay, so this is a full frame camera. We need to have the yellow swab. Now I like to get everything ready before I start wet cleaning, so I'll just cut open the sealed pouch and I get the handle of the swab ready, and then I'll get my solution and get the top off the bottle ready to use. And now I'm going to put the camera back into mirror lock-up mode. So the mirror is up, the shutter is open. Take the swab out the pouch and then wet the bar of the swab with 3 or 4 drops of fluid, and then because the fluid evaporates fairly rapidly, we want to take the camera, put the swab inside the camera, line it up on one side of the sensor, and then carefully go down the sensor from one side to the other. When you get to the end, just reverse the swab and go back to the beginning again, and then carefully take the swab out of the camera, cancel mirror lockup and discard the swab, because that has now been contaminated and you definitely don't want to be using that again. Now hopefully that will how you will now have a clean sensor, and I hope this video has shown you that in practice keeping a sensor clean is actually a really easy task, which is just as well because in the real world the sensor is going to get contaminated from time to time. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give us a thumbs up. Thank you very much.